Hello everybody, my name is Slicey and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be basically doing a masterclass on Hydra. I'm going to go through and explain how you do Hydra, the champs to do Hydra, how to gear champs for Hydra. I'm going to show hopefully multiple accounts of Hydra, and yeah, just different teams, different ways of doing it, and we'll get through it. We'll see how it ends up. So, the basics of Hydra. There's 4 difficulties: normal, hard, brutal, nightmare. So from top to bottom, top is easiest, bottom is hardest. You get the most rewards from nightmare, and so on and so forth. Brutal you get the second most, hard third most, and then normal you get the least. In this, you can go ahead and get the best gear in the game, in my opinion, which is, well, some of the best gear in the game, which is stone skin, and there's also protection. You get clan gold, you get mortal soul stones, and you get clan XP, as well as you'll get Mithrala fragments. If you're new to it, Mithrala is one of the best champs in the game. Overall has an absolutely insane kit, very good, doesn't take that many books overall. In my opinion, the top 10 champs in the game. You get her for free just for doing Hydra, which is more incentive to do Hydra. I haven't hit this week, so you'll kind of get to see my teams. I'm not going to fight the Hydra in this video, except just to show how things work. So, the very basics of the heads. The heads are the things that people tend to not quite understand. Head of Decay. There's different, well, let's start off by saying there's different ways to counter every head. So, the Head of Decay. Basically just pretty normal A1, puts a heal reduction on one of your champions. And then the most annoying ability that it has is Speed of Decay, removes all debuffs from all heads and fills the turn meter of all heads by 30%. This is the nastiest ability in all of Hydra. You need to lock this down. There's no other way around it. Rotten Ward removes all debuffs from the head with the lowest HP, then places Life Barrier, which is basically just a big shield, and the Life Barrier cannot be removed or stolen. The life barrier, if you do break it though, you get to go ahead and stun that head so they don't get a turn. The way you can go ahead and tackle this head is by provoking it. Provoking is the only way to really counter it, and yeah, it's the most important thing to do, in my opinion, in all of Hydra, is get a Head of Decay counter. Which I'll give some amazing ones, and we'll go through it. I'm not really going to point out this whole passive. It's pretty much the same in all of them. I mean, they're all a little different, but you'll see. You can read it yourself. I'll leave it here. You can read it. Basically, everybody else takes less damage, and this head takes way less damage from poisons. That's the most basic way of putting it. Head of Blight. We like this head because its A1 is an AoE, and we'll get on why we like that later on. So it puts out, well, no, this is, yeah. So it puts out poison debuff and leech debuff. Those are not fun to deal with. Inflicts, so when you decapitate it, you get inflicts damage to all heads under HP burn debuffs whenever this head is decapitated. Leeching Blight attacks all enemies, places a 5% poison debuff for 3 turns, instantly deals damage from all poisons on any of your any of your team. It'll go ahead and do all this, and it's basically, it just hits pretty hard if you have debuffs on you. Places a Poison Cloud. Poison Cloud is awful. You want to have a way to counter it. The ways of countering it is either block buffs or HP burn, but you cannot place the HP burn afterwards with an attacking move. It'll have to be just a placing move. We'll get more on that later when I go to the champs that you want to use for this stuff. This head receives double damage from HP burns and decreases the damage Hydra heads take from AoEs by 10%. You can read the rest. It's pretty much the exact same as the last one. I'll leave it here for just a second for you guys to go ahead and read it. Moving down, Head of Suffering. Attacks all enemies, places a 25% weaken debuff for 2 turns. This cannot be resisted. Will not place the weaken debuff if like your team has strengthen on them. Decapitation effect places a shield buff on all enemy champions, so all of us, like all of your team, for 2 turns, equal to 30% of their max HP whenever this head is decapitated. So basically just protects you once you kill it. This head goes ahead and goes with the Thirst for Pain, places a 50% ally protection on all other Hydra heads for 2 turns, then places reflect damage on itself, and then also puts out a provoke debuff on the enemy champion, which is going to be your champion, with the highest crit damage for 1 turn. And then Share Suffering attacks one enemy, places a pain link debuff for 3 turns, and grants this head an extra turn. So pain link is basically if you hit this head right here, if you hit the head of suffering, it's gonna go ahead and it'll do damage to your champion, kind of like a reflect damage. But I guess the best way to put it is like Geomancer's HP burn. If any of your people hit the enemy team, hit the Geo, then that goes back on that person. Just kind of like an example. Increases the resistance of all Hydra heads by 50. So this one makes you have to go ahead and put a lot more accuracy on your team. And then decreases the damage all Hydra heads take from AoE attacks by 30%. Decreases the damage taken from poison, debuffs by 90%, and then the rest is basically the exact same. Head of Wrath. Attacks all enemies. This is the A1. Attacks all enemies, places a 50% decreased attack on all your people for 2 turns. Passive effect. Each enemy hit receives increased his vengeance, which is his passive, counter by 1. Whenever it reaches 15, whenever this hits 15, places a vengeance buff on himself, a block debuffs on himself, and a reflect damage on himself, then attacks all enemies. This attack can hit insanely hard. And then whenever you decapitate this head, inflicts damage to all heads whenever this champion is decapitated. If this head is decapitated while under vengeance buff, the damage inflicted to all heads increases, and there's a 25% chance of placing a leech on all heads for 2 turns, which is really big. A leech is very important in a Hydra team. So his Furious Roar attacks all enemies, places a provoke debuff for 1 turn, which is basically just trying to get the vengeance counter up. Also places a 50% increased attack buff on this champion for 3 turns. And then decreases the damage all Hydra heads take from AoE attacks by 10%, and then basically just the same as the rest. Head of Torment attacks one enemy, has a 50% chance of placing Fear. This debuff cannot be blocked or resisted. So the really annoying thing about Head of Torment is that every time you hit it, it goes ahead and puts a true fear on you. The way to counter this is either Veils or Shamel, and we'll get to that later when we talk about champions. Yeah, so, and then when this is decapitated, removes all the fears off your team, then places a perfect veil buff for 2 turns on 2 random champs on your team. Attack, and then his A3 is what is it, A2? It's A2, my bad. Yeah. Attacks all enemies, damage increased by 25% for each debuff an enemy is under. So more debuffs you have, the more damage that's going to do. When attacked by enemies not under perfect veil buffs, places a true fear debuff on them for 1 turn. Yeah, so that's the annoying passive. This debuff cannot be blocked or resisted, which is even more annoying. But like it says, has to be under perfect veil. That's the way to get around it, as well as Inquisitor Shamel, which we'll get on later. Head of Mischief. Mischief is, in my opinion, the most annoying head in all of Hydra, and I'll talk about it more once we get past this kit. Attacks the enemy with the most buffs, steals the buffs. It has a and steals 50% of the target's turn meter, which is just disgusting. Quite frankly, it's awful. Yeah, it will ignore. So okay, if there are multiple enemies with the same number of buffs, the attack will ignore one of them at random. Well, we'll target one of them at random. We'll ignore Veil and Perfect Veil buffs. He doesn't care. He's gonna target whoever has the most buffs. When he's decapitated, fully depletes the turn meters of all Hydra heads. It's really nice to get him killed. And then applies a buff spread effect. This is the most annoying thing about him. Besides him stealing your buffs, he's also going to spread all of those buffs that he does and changes the duration of all the buffs to 2 turns. So regardless of what yours was, if you have a block damage on your team, even if it's 1 turn, he's going to steal that, he's going to spread it, and all of their team's going to have a block damage for 2 turns. If you want to counter him, the best way is Hex, and then also you want to go ahead. Well, okay, so usually you can't attack him. 75% chance of redirecting any enemy attack onto another random head will not occur if this head is under Hex. So if you have somebody like a Geomancer, his A2, you want to go ahead and steal the buffs back off of the head. You can't do that unless he has Hex. Well, 75% of the time you can't unless he has Hex. But you can make a Mischief Tank, which is basically somebody who buffs themselves, gives them the most buffs, and then they're always gonna attack that person. So then you go ahead and put an insane amount of resistance on them, and that's how you get around it. Those are the 2 ways to get around it. I generally just go with a block buffs champion, because that's another thing you can do. Just block him from taking buffs. Well, block him from getting buffs to be able to spread them. I usually don't make a mischief tank, but you can do that, and it's a very good way of going through it. You can go ahead and read the rest of it. Decreases the damage of all Hydra heads take from AoE attacks by 10%. So you can read the rest, and we're moving on. Yeah, so that is everything. That's the heads themselves. Please take time to understand what the heads do, so you know what you need to do to make a team. So let's go ahead and, well, first let's go pick out some champions for everything really. I'll just point out about 10-20 champions that are huge for Hydra, starting with more free-to-play friendly ones going up to super Pt.1 ones. So we were talking about the head, I believe, of Torment, the one who puts out the fears. So if you want a pretty cheap counter to him, just go down and go to Rector Drath. Rector Drath is Force Affinity Epic and puts Perfect Veil on all of your team for 3 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. You can go ahead and go to your masteries, and let's go to my Duchess. And you can get the lasting gifts and give it a chance to go for that full 4-turn cooldown, and you'll really never have to deal with it as long as she's quick enough. The next champion, so we've covered that head. So the next huge champion, one of my favorites, if not my favorite for Hydra, is Husk. Husk is an AoE max HP damage dealer, very amazing damage dealer, but also his A1 has a provoke. This adds up to a 40% chance to provoke on a double hit. So I mean, I know it isn't exactly 80%, but just for the sake of the video, we're gonna go ahead and say 80%. So 80% A1, just put him with some accuracy with all the rest of his damage, and he does some amazing stuff. I'll go ahead and show you my Husk just so you kind of have an idea of how to build him. This is how I built mine. I do wish he had some more HP and some more defense, but besides that, I really like his build. He definitely needs more accuracy though. So if you're building yours, give him more accuracy. I need to go ahead and level this to 16. I'll do that later. Anyways, yes, that is stuff to keep in mind. The next champion, so we've went over 2 champions that are really free-to-play friendly, at least as free-to-play friendly as it gets. The next one, I would say, just for pure damage, this isn't countering any head in specific, but is Royal Guard. Royal Guard has the 4 attacks at random, has a really good chance of putting decreased speed on all of them, and then also has an AoE max HP attack, and it slams, let me tell you. Very solid champion, very good for here. Now, let's go to another Force Affinity Epic, and that is Geomancer. Arguably, I wouldn't even say arguably, he is the best epic in the entire game, without question. So he has a passive that decreases the damage that is taken, as well as reflecting damage if he places the HP burn, and that reflected damage is absolutely insane. This ability right here will break your allies out of getting eaten almost every single time, as long as there's AoE attacks, because when they attack your team, it reflects that damage back, and it's crazy. His A2 can remove all buffs from that target. He steals them if they're under his HP burn. And then AoE A1 with a 40% chance to place a 50% decrease accuracy, as well as having a really solid 25% HP lead in all battles. I can go ahead and show you my Geomancer. I'm about to level a few more, but here's mine. I have him 6-star ascended, almost 500 accuracy, pretty solid speed at 227, and some solid defensive stats. Here are his masteries. You want this War Master, that's where you get so much of your damage. Yeah, so that's Geomancer. He's amazing. Like I said, the best epic in the entire game, without a single question. The next champion that I'm going to go to is going to go ahead and be another epic, and I think this might be the last epic that I... Oh, no, we have one... No, we have one more before him, because this is a Magic Affinity epic. This is arguably one of the best epics. No, she is one of the best epics for all of Hydra, used in even Nightmare teams. A1 has a leech on it. It's only a 35% chance, but it's not bad, but increases by 5% for every alive enemy. So there's 4 enemies on their team, so 20%, it's a 55% chance. Not bad at all. This is the big ability. It's AoE 100% chance on a 3-turn cooldown to put out a 2-turn decreased defense, and then also a 2-turn block buffs. This is huge. Well, the block buffs is a 75% chance, and then increases by 5% for every enemy alive, which ends up being a 95% chance. And then if you want to take that to 100, let's go to my Ugo. I don't know if I have masteries on her. I do. If you want that to be 100%, I need to get her masteries, but if you want that to be 100%, go ahead and get Sniper. Sniper makes it 100% because that extra 5%. I need to do that, actually, thinking about it. I haven't used her in a little bit, though. And then the last champion I'm really going to highlight is going to be Shamel. Shamel is another Head of Torment counter, the #1 Head of Torment counter, in my opinion. So every time that a fear or a true fear is placed on your team, he goes ahead and puts a 15% turn meter, well, he removes that instantly, and then boosts your ally that's in lead. So the first place, so whoever has the lead, he's boosting that person by 15%. So let's say someone like Geomancer that I said that's basically always going to break out your allies. Like this team, we have Shamel in the very back, and then we have him, we have Geomancer in lead. Geomancer is going to be getting so many more turns, so many more HP burns, and it's just so nice to have him. Alright, so now we're done with epics. We've highlighted a bunch of very good epics. Now let's move over to the legendaries. The legendaries are more, obviously better. They're not better. There's a lot, those epics that I mentioned are used in Nightmare. But let's move on. So the first one I'm going to highlight is one of my favorite champs in the whole game, and that is Mighty Uko. Mighty Uko has an AoE A1 with a decreased attack, which is nice for those big attacking enemies, and then this is his big ability for Hydra. Attacks all enemies 2 times. Each has a 100% chance when booked to remove 2 random buffs from each target. Places a block buffs debuff and a 50% decrease attack debuff for 2 turns on targets that have no buffs after the attack. So removing 4 buffs and placing these, it's huge. And then he also has an AoE full team revive. He puts increased speed on the alive allies and then block damage on the allies that just got revived. And then his passive steals buff, so that's more of like an arena thing. And then he has an amazing aura, 20% speed in all battles. So that's just my first pick here. He was a fusion, but yeah, so if you got him, just know he's absolutely amazing. And if you're still getting him, he's amazing. This next one I'm going to pick is going to be a duo. So, well, one that's not so free to play and then one that is easier. So we have Cupidus. He's just this A1 is really where his damage is at. For Hydra, that's what you're going to be focusing. Attacks all enemies damage increases by 15% if the target has any debuffs, and then also 25% more damage, and always counterattacks when he's with Venus. And Venus is the second one that I'm putting them as a duo. She has an AoE, removes all buffs from enemies and has a 50% chance of granting an extra turn. And then an AoE HP burn, an AoE, this is all 100%, AoE decrease defense and weaken, and then also a 50% chance on you get double attack, 50% chance of a poison. So I know she isn't free to play friendly really, but I'm just going to mention them because if you do get them, they're basically going to carry your team. There's 2 more people I'm going to point out in this faction, and that's going to be Bivold. Bivold has an AoE that does pretty good damage, then puts a shield on your team. He also has an AoE provoke and leech, which is absolutely amazing, and he also puts strengthen on himself, so you can make him a provoke, and you can make him the initiative tank if you want. His A1 has a chance to provoke, very solid, and he also heals the lowest ally. Decreases damage taken by all enemies under provokes. Overall, amazing provoker. He also brings leech and overall just healing for the team. Then we have Archbishop Pinthroy. Increases ally accuracy in all battles by 50%. Removes all decreased defense and weakened debuffs from this champion at the start of each turn. Heals all allies by 30% of their max HP, then places a 60% increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns. If 4 or more allies are alive, also places a shield buff on each ally for 2 turns equal to 30% of their max HP. This is his big ability in my opinion. Places a 50% increase accuracy buff on all allies for 2 turns, then attacks all enemies. Places a 100% heal reduction debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. Also has a 75% chance of placing a block debuff on all enemies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. Pretty awesome. By the way, this is up to 100%. And then also his A1 transfers 1 random debuff from this champion to the target. Also has a 75% chance of stealing a random buff from that. Also an amazing leads, 50% accuracy. Whew, goodness guys, this is a lot of talking. Just refreshing myself as we go through, looking through the factions. Any huge people I'm going to point out. Okay, here we have 2. We have Contra the Cyclone. This is just an insane amount of debuffs. I'm going to start explaining the kits just a little bit less, but just keep in mind an insane amount of debuffs which is needed for her passive. Her passive is, let's get to the thing that really matters, 75% chance of placing a provoke debuff for 1 turn on enemies under 5 or more debuffs at the start of her turn, and this champion can place debuffs on weak hits. So you want to just stack an insane amount of debuffs on the head of I forget, is it Mischief or something like that? No, it's not Mischief. It's the one that you need to provoke. Yeah, I went over this. You guys should know. And then it also has a very solid lead, 60% in all battles accuracy. And then the next one is Tuhanarok, is another block buffs, which is needed. She also debuff spreads, which is huge. Decrease speed on enemies and continuous heal on your team. And then increased defense buffs on a 3-turn cooldown with increased speed buffs. These are on 2 turns, and the thing is on the 3-turn. And then her passive removes 1 debuff from all allies at the start of each turn, which is huge. Removes 2 turns from debuffs instead from allies under continuous heal buffs. So overall, amazing base stats. This is a void legendary, sadly though, and a 70 accuracy lead in all battles. So the next, where is the next one I really want to point out? Oh, this is somebody you really can't overlook. There's 3 here that I'm really going to point out. So, first one, Pythion was a fusion, arguably the best fusion ever, along with Uko in my opinion. So, his I'm gonna start a passive and go down. That's how I've been doing it, really. Allies receive 5% less damage from skills for each buff on them, stacks up to 25%. So if you have 5 buffs, you're taking 25% less damage. Revives, and then this is on a 4-turn. Revives all allies with 50% HP and 50% turn meter. Then places a 25% strengthen buff on all allies for 2 turns. This is on a 4-turn. And then Shed Skin, this is one of his best abilities along with his pass. I mean, amazing kit, there's nothing I can really point out. But removes all debuffs from all allies and heals them by 10% of their max HP. Heals each ally by an extra 5% of their max HP for each debuff removed. Also places, block debuffs buff on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. And then his A1 is just heals on every single one of his hits, and then his lead is a 60% resistance aura. Next one I'm going to point out, in my opinion, can be up there as the best Hydra champ in the game. Maybe not the best, but top 5. Nekmothar. Nekmothar has a 19% speed in all battles aura. And then his passive fills this champion turn meter by 5% each time a debuff on an enemy is removed, transferred, or expires. And then on a 4-turn cooldown, we have a 30% increased speed buff on all allies for 2 turns and fills their turn meter by 30%, then grants this champion an extra turn. So really, this is a 3-turn cooldown. On a 3-turn cooldown, attacks all enemies, has a 75% chance of placing, well, it goes to 100, of placing decrease speed and leech for 2 turns. This is insane. One of the best abilities in the game for Hydra. And then his A1, it has a 40% chance of placing a 50% decreased attack debuff for 2 turns. Then the chance increases to 75% against targets under debuffs. I'm sorry, guys, a lot of kids to read. And then the last one in here that I'm really going to point out is going to be Krisk. Krisk is just insane, always been insane, will always be insane. At the start of each round, so at the start of the fight, he puts a huge shield equal to 50% of this champion's max HP. Yeah, that's just insane. His base HP is almost 20k. Has a 75% chance of placing decreased defense debuff and a 50% decreased attack debuff on the attacker whenever he's hit. This goes up to 100%, guys. This is huge. I mean, his entire kit's insane, so everything I'm saying is just insane stuff. On a 3-turn cooldown, places a provoke debuff on all enemies for 1 turn, then places a 60% increased defense buff on this champion for 2 turns, places a 30% increase of speed buff on all allies except this champion for 2 turns. He's an insane mischief tank. Probably the best in the game. Attacks all enemies. This is a 3-turn cooldown. Attacks all enemies. Places a 50% ally protection buff on all allies except this champion for 2 turns. Places 2 15% continuous heals on this champion for 1 turn. Increases the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn. Completely insane. On a 3-turn, insane. And then his A1's also insane. Has attacks all enemies 50% chance of placing decreased speed on this. AoE, decreased speed, 50% chance on A1. Completely insane champion. Again, another one that you could argue being the absolute best in the game for Hydra. Skinwalkers, we've already gone over Uko and everybody else. I mean, there's some good ones, but nobody I really want to point out. And here, I think there's only, there's 2 champions that are worth pointing out, and that is, there's more, but they're really worth. Tila Gourmain used to be the worst champion in the game, and I fed her, actually, because she was that bad. Shouldn't have done, oh no, there's 3 champions, I'm thinking about it. Tila, she has, 50% resistance in all battles. Attacks all enemies, has a 85% books up to 100% chance of increasing the duration of all HP burn debuffs on all enemies from 1 turn. Also has a 100% chance of placing a leech debuff and a hex debuff. Insane ability. Very, very good. And then Pyre Strike, a 3-turn cooldown, 100% chance of placing HP burn debuff for 2 turns on all enemies. Also places 15% continuous heal on all allies for 2 turns. On a 3-turn cooldown, that's really good. And then A1 attacks one enemy, steals 1 random buff from the target. Also has basically more if they're under, more, whatever. R-Tac, the next one. I'm going to start condensing them. I said I was earlier, but I'm really going to start condensing them. His passive is broken. I mean, that's all I really have to say for that. And then he has AoE HP burn. Really good. You can read it a little bit more if you want. I'll leave it open for just a second. And then his A2 instantly activates all HP burns. And then puts a decreased attack, and then he also has a 45% chance of extending the duration of all HP burns on an AoE. Amazing champion, free champion, you should have him, everybody has him. Just amazing. And then Supreme Gaelic, an AoE HP burner, decreased speed, block buffs. Overall, just amazing champion. And then he has a chance of activating HP burns. It's just amazing kit. It's hard for me to still read every kit because we're 30 minutes into the video and I would like to get further, but yeah, basically this is one of the best abilities for Hydra in the game. And then he can activate those HP burns on a 4-turn random, well, a 3-turn, and then has 4 random hits. Yeah, just an amazing champion, especially for Hydra. Definitely worth looking into. Demon Spawn, I think we have one that I truly want to point out. Sissy is an amazing one, by the way. Not the one I want to point out, but AoE HP burn activates those and puts decreased defense and weaken. By the way, this is an extra turn if she lands all of them, so this could be really a 3-turn cooldown. This is a 3-turn cooldown. AoE, yeah. I mean, I think she also. No, okay, that's a different person. Never mind. Also, just overall amazing champion. Not who I want to point out, so I'm not going to go nearly as far as I have with other ones. Duchess, I mean, what can I say? Duchess is arguably the best champion in the entire game. Maybe not the best, but easily top 3 if she isn't the best. Top 3 or top 4. I can see arguments for top 4, but nobody can argue against top 3, really. I mean, against top 4. I'm going to go deep into her kit. Increases ally speed in all battles by 19%. Huge. I mean, it's just huge. Her base stats are amazing too. Her passive decreases the damage taken by all allies from AoE attacks by 25% in arena and other stuff, but then from bosses, which Hydra is a boss, only 15%, but still 15% is huge. Spectral Rebirth on a 4-turn cooldown revives all dead allies with 75% with 75% HP, places a veil buff on all other allies except this champion for 1 turn, places a 15% continuous heal on all allies for 2 turns. And then her I mean, that's a huge ability for Hydra, but her A2 is the really big thing for Hydra, and that is Shroud of Souls on a 4-turn cooldown, places a block debuffs buff and a 50% increased attack buff on all allies for 2 turns. Places a perfect veil buff on all allies except this champion for 2 turns. Insane. I mean, the perfect veil keeps you from getting from torment, getting you feared and stuff. It's just amazing. Then her A1 puts a shield on the ally with lowest HP, equal to her, well, close to equal to her. Because there's books, it's a little different, but equal to her 10% of her max HP. Like I said, easily top 4 best champ in the game, arguably best, arguably top 3, just kind of how you look at it. In here, there's some amazing champions, but I think I'm only going to look at 2. 1, Moshfaled. I'm not going to go as deep into his kit, but this basically steals all. Is it steals or removes? Yeah, steals all buffs from the target champion, then puts a heal reduction and puts continuous heals on himself. Tornado on a 3-turn cooldown, basically a 2-turn, which is kind of crazy. Holy. Places a 30% increased speed and 30% increased crit damage buff on all allies for 2 turns. Places a true fear and leech debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. That leech is huge. This being on a 2-turn cooldown is actually insane. Because he takes that extra turn. And then this becomes an AoE, so it attacks, heals the champion by 30% of the damage dealt, but this is an AoE when anybody's under leech, and then his aura is only in dungeon, so it doesn't really matter. The next person, and the last person we're going to look at in this faction right now, is Siphi. Siphi's top 5 best champ in the game, I think. Maybe top 10. Maybe not quite. I don't know. She's good with Rotos, but heals each ally by 10% of their max HP at the start of their turn, and that's really all you really want to look at here. Also has an 80% resistance in all battles, and then her A3 is a 4-turn single target revived with 55% HP and a full turn meter, which is big. Places increased attack and increased crit rate on that ally for 2 turns. Her big ability right here, Whirlwind Romance, has on a 4-turn cooldown, places a block buffs debuff on all allies for 2 turns, then fills the turn meter of all allies by 10%, and places a 60% increased defense buff and a 30% increase speed buff on all allies for 2 turns. Really just absolutely insane. It's important that she places that block debuffs first in arena though. Her A1's pretty much broken. It's 100% A1 sleep, and that's really just like PvE and PvP stuff, not for bosses though. And then if they have over 50% turn meter, this build cannot be resisted, and then heals all allies by 5% of their max HP if the target's turn meter was below 50%. So you want to focus the lower turn meter ones with that A1. So moving on to Dark Elves. Here I'm only gonna look at 2, but there are some more amazing ones, and both of them are free. I say free in quotations because actually I'm gonna look at 3, and all 3 are free. Again, free in quotations because it takes a lot to get them. But first is Lydia. Absolutely insane champion. You get her for beating faction wars, which makes faction wars worth beating. 100% in arena battles resistance, and this is a block revive passive. Doesn't matter in Hydra though. And then on a 3-turn cooldown, the 100% chance attacks one enemy 2 times. The first attack places poison sensitivity for 2 turns. The second attack has 100% chance of placing block buffs and blocked active skills for 2 turns. You're only going to be getting that block buffs on the Hydra, but that block buffs is important. If you pair her with Hex, then you get to lock out that one person that puts out buffs. I forget what his name is. Siren's Wail on a 3-turn cooldown, 100% chance AoE of placing decreased defense and weaken for 2 turns. Also places strengthen buff and increased speed buff on all allies for 2 turns. One of the best skills in the entire game, especially for PvE. Maybe in the top 3 best skills for PvE. I don't know. It's up there though. And then A1 doesn't really matter if you're in Hydra. Next one, another free one, is going to be Vizix the Unbowed. I sadly fed mine into my Lydia. You shouldn't do that. Don't do that. Don't make the mistakes I made. Do as I say, not as I do. Aura, just for faction crypts. And then this is one of the important abilities here. It attacks all enemies provoke on 1 turn, but it's on a 3-turn cooldown. And that's good for the head that needs provoked. Again, forget names, but you guys saw me explain them earlier. This is on a 3-turn cooldown, has a 100% chance of placing decreased speed on all enemies, and that's huge. Decreased speed is one of the biggest debuffs for Hydra, and then also places ally protection on all your allies except her, which is really nice. And then this is an amazing A1 outside of Hydra. I'll read it just because it's amazing. 100% chance each hit, decreasing the target's turn meter by 15%, and then fills this champion's turn meter equal to the amount that the target lost. Basically steals their turn meter A1. It's really good. A very amazing champion. Good base stats, except speed. Little on speed. And then Mithrala, the person I was talking about earlier, you get from Hydra. Amazing in Hydra. 80%. But again, all 3 of these are free. 80%. Well, not 80%, 80 ally accuracy in all battles. Petrification, this is for PvP really, and well, just not bosses. But the important thing here is that also increases this champion's resistance. The amount by which it is increased is equal to the amount of accuracy this champion has. So let's say you have 700 accuracy, you're going to add your resistance and your accuracy, and then you get her total resistance. Her, on a 3-turn cooldown, removes all debuffs from all allies and places a 25% strengthen buff and shield buff for 2 turns, and this shield is equal to this champion's max HP. It's pretty big. AoE Hex on a, what is that, a 3-turn cooldown, and increase defense and increase attack on your team. Then A1 is a double hit, 100% chance of placing some poisons. Amazing. So that's that faction. Moving over to Night Revs. Is there anybody I truly want to point out? I'm going to skim over them just because they're not like insane standouts, but they're very good. Theodore for Hydra is really good. Increases the duration of HP burns and poisons, and then instantly activates them. Amazing ability. This, you're putting increased speed on all your allies. The rest of it doesn't matter all that much because Hydra doesn't really take that much damage from poisons, but it does. It also puts poisons and poison sensitivity on the enemies. And then very good A1, attacks all enemies, 50% chance of a decreased speed. That is the same as Krisk, 50 accuracy in all battles. The next one, the last one I'm going to talk about here, is Walking Tomb Drain. Walking Tomb Drain is amazing. Was a fusion, 30% HP in all battles, and then if this reflects 30% of the damage back to the attacker of this champion has 50% HP or more, deals 30% more damage instead if this champion has less than 50% HP. This is an HP equalizer. Just equalizes your whole team the highest to the HP of the highest champion. AoE HP burn, 100% chance on the 3-turn cooldown that cannot be resisted, which is the huge part. And then the A1 can, well, it instantly activates HP burn, which is big. Alright, dwarves. Is there anybody I truly think needs pointed out here? I mean, yes I do. There is 3 champions I think are worth taking a look at. Trunda can be the, I'd say, the second best damage dealer in all of Hydra, arguably number 1 because some stuff's really weird with her. But basically AoE HP burn, big hit, but AoE HP burn if you're using her in Hydra. Then this is kind of weird. Her passive is weird. I'm not going to read it. Cloak of Ages. This is the ability that can hit for 40 million in one hit with the right setup. But yeah, you just have to go watch a video on it. I don't have her, I can't show you, but she hits one enemy. If it kills them, she hits that enemy for like 1 mil, and then spreads that out if the right setup is out there, and does like 40-50 million damage. It's actually insane. And then just damage on the A1. Basically only there for damage, but very good for that, if not the best for that. Oh, there's a lot of champions I want to point out here. Brogni, he's amazing for protection here. Whenever there's a shield, he reflects 20% of that damage that the enemy does, and then his A3 on a 3-turn cooldown, block debuffs, increase attack, shield on them that cannot be removed. It's big. This increases the shield, like increases the size of the shield, and has a chance of removing 1 random debuff from all allies and removing a buff from the enemies. HP burn A1, amazing champion, amazing base stats, overall one of the best in the game. The next one I'm going to point out is Molly. Molly's pretty simple. She gets hit it's a 1-turn cooldown. She gets hit, boosts the turn meter a lot of your allies and her, I believe, and her, yeah. And then this is a single target revive on a 4-turn cooldown that gives them HP, 50% HP, 50% turn meter, and gives them a block damage. She's good at being a mischief tank, places a provoke debuff on all enemies for 1 turn, which will just be that head that needs provoked, and then can also a 50% chance of making that a 2-turn provoke, which is insane. Like one of the best provokers, if not the best provoker. I mean, she's up there. And puts reflex damage, that's why she can be a mischief tank. Then A1, it can kind of smack if they're under HP burn. yeah, good base stats, good champion. And now we're going to move on to the most broken champion in the entire game. That is Acrizia. Acrizia, in my opinion, is a cheat code for anything PvE. I've heard arguments against this, but I don't know. 19% ally crit rate in all battles, and then decreases the damage. This is her passive, decreases the damage taken by AoE attacks by 50%. Her A3 shutdown on a 3-turn cooldown, it has a 100% chance of stealing 100% of the target's turn meter before attacking. Doesn't matter in Hydra, but is insane. This effect cannot be resisted if the target has higher max HP, which isn't hard. And this is based off of, this is an enemy max HP hit, and it hits insanely hard. And then her A2 on a 3-turn cooldown, attacks all enemies 2 times, places shield on this champion, 5% of the max HP for critical hit. It's weird, it just puts a shield on her, I'm just going to say that. And it's a double hit AoE max HP hit. That's actually just insane. It's like I was talking about Royal Guard and Husk doing some insane damage because their max HP hits. Everything she does is max HP. And then her A1 ramps. It's ramping damage. Every time you use it, does more damage, scales up to 100%, and also puts a decreased defense on a 60% chance. Actually insane. Just broken. Straight up broken. #1 champ in the game for anything PvE, and I don't think that can even kind of be argued. Oh goodness. Okay. I'm gonna point out only 2 champions, because you can't get Ninja anymore. Ninja's insane, but just know he's insane. I'm just gonna say that. Sadly, most people can't get him anymore, so I'm not gonna highlight him. Lady Kimmy, this is a Doom Tower thing. Sorry if you hear my dog in the background, guys. Whenever this champion places a debuff on an enemy, also decreases that enemy's turn meter by 5%. For each debuff placed. Whenever this champion or an ally receives a debuff, fills their turn meter by 5% for each debuff received. On a 4-turn cooldown, 100% chance of removing 1 random buff from the enemy and then placing block debuffs. She can be a block debuff person, but the more important thing here is also fills all ally turn meters by 15%, then places increased accuracy and increased speed for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. It's pretty solid, considering she's insanely quick, one of the highest base speeds in the entire game. Flurry of Petals, a 3-turn cooldown, 100% chance of placing a 100% chance of placing a 50% decrease in attack debuff on the enemy and a 30% decreased speed on the enemy for 2 turns, and then decreases the turn meter, but that doesn't really matter in Hydra. A1, this isn't used here really that much, but just a A1, you just attack one enemy, then attacks the enemy with the highest turn meter. So you attack one, it goes to the other person. It goes to 2 people. It's okay. I mean, it's an okay A1. The only other person I'm going to point out here is Mishinaki. Mishinaki is one of the best damage dealers in the game for Hydra. Increases all ally defense in all battles by 30%. Whenever an ally attacks an enemy under hex debuffs, this champion has a 50% chance to team up and join the allies' attacks. This does not work against the decapitated Hydra heads. Doubled, I don't even know how to say that, degeneracy? Double degeneracy. I haven't even been reading them. I don't know why I'm saying it now. Anyways, a 3-turn cooldown, attacks all enemies 2 times. The first hit removes all buffs from each target, then places the hex on the second one. That's actually insane. Very, very good. On a 3-turn cooldown, attacks all enemies, 100% chance of placing a decreased defense debuff for 2 turns, and then has a 100% chance of placing a decreased attack debuff for 2 turns on enemies under hex. And then A1, this is his thing that goes along with the passive. It hits insanely hard. Attacks one enemy has a 50% chance of placing HP burn for 2 turns. Looks up to a 60. Insane. Just truly insane. One of the best damage dealers in the entire game for Hydra. And he's really good in normal clan boss too. The last faction only one, no, two to point out here. We have Elva. Elva is one of the best supports in the game. 19% speed in all battles. Heals each ally by 10% of their max HP at the start of their turn. And that's very similar to Siphi's. And then places a perfect veil for one turn on the ally with the lowest HP at the end of this champion's turn. So gets those perfect veils out there, not for that long, but it's good. And then on a 3-turn cooldown, revives a target ally, 1-person revive with 40% HP, 50% turn meter, then places 60% increased defense and 50% increased attack on that ally. Has a 75% chance of removing all debuffs from all enemies. And then places a block debuffs buff and a 30% increase speed on all allies for 2 turns. A1 is a continuous heal. Alright, we're done with the champions. That only took about 30 minutes. Sorry about that, guys, but it is good to know what's good. Just pointing out some great champions in each place. So, now we're going to go to building teams. Let's go to, we're just going to go to normal. Haven't done any fights, doesn't really matter. So, let's go ahead and look at what I have. I have a very sizable account. I mean, nothing insane, but a very good account with a lot of champions. So let's look at what we need. We need somebody to counter him. We need somebody to go ahead and counter Decay. And we need somebody to counter all these buffs that they're going to be putting up. That's just the first set of things that we really need. So for a more free-to-play friendly side of things, we're going to go ahead and pull out Ugo. And so that goes ahead and gives us a cleanse, a heal, decreased defense, and weaken, which is really nice. We're going to want to go ahead and get a provoke in here. And we also want damage. So somebody we could do for that is our Husk. He has the A1 provoke. And yeah, overall just very solid stuff. And he does the big slams. So there's 2 people. We don't want to deal with all the crap from the Torment, so we're going to go ahead and bring in Shamel. Shamel's the best counter to it in the whole game. I don't think anybody can argue that. And then, I mean, so far we have some good people, but we don't really have much protection. And so I'm going to avoid, like I said, I'm going to try and make this a more free-to-play friendly thing. So let's go ahead and bring in Syl. Syl can do a lot of good healing and all that, so we're going to bring her in. And then we're also, I mean, we have 1 damage dealer, and we have him. We want our Husk to be near the front. It goes like this, if you want to know like where the turn meter is going to go. And then the first person, I mean, number 1, I think Geo, I mean, he's an epic. Hopefully a lot of you guys have him. Hope most of you guys have him. You put him in front because he's getting the more turn meter. And then, so we have him for damage, him for damage. We need at least 2 damage dealers. Having 3 is nice though. So we could bring in Royal Guard. And overall, this is a solid team. We're going to go ahead and take this in here just so you guys can kind of see how this works. This is only normal. Keep that in mind. You're not really going to see this much damage in most teams that we're going to see here. So let's go ahead and put the main damage on this head because it's annoying. Let's go ahead and try to get a provoke. We didn't get a provoke. So let's just go ahead and free regroup, which is another huge thing with Hydra that you don't get anywhere else, and that's just to go ahead and leave without losing anything. So let's do the same thing that I said. Try to get the provoke this time. Oh my goodness. On bad affinity this happens. You have to retry. It's okay. Once you get this first provoke though, okay, whatever. Usually when you get the first provoke, you just don't really care all that much afterwards. But we're going to just try to kill out this head because as soon as they do that, we deal with this. And this, I mean, there's a whole lot of things you don't like. But I'm just going to give you a simple run. Again, this isn't the best team I could have done. And I could have just kept trying to get that off of... like that provoke on him, but we're gonna go. I just want to show you guys kind of the different issues you face if you don't do it perfect. You get this, you can't really hit them right, If they have the poison cloud makes you do so much less damage, and yeah, you can't really do anything. And then we're stuck hitting this head if we want to do anything. And then Shimel's going to counterattack a million times. Anyways, so as we can see, there's the ally attack, there's the poison cloud, there's the reflect damage. So overall, bringing somebody like Uko or Uko is very important, just because, and having the provoke, because without the provoke, you're not, it's just gonna get stripped off. But as we go on, I'll probably go ahead and just get the 1 key and then call it that. So it isn't going all that great to start off with, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. We go ahead and get the decreased speed out, which is nice. Get the heals. We just need this poison cloud to go away, and then we can start doing some more stuff. So we get the provoke, which is nice, but it didn't really matter, just because their stuff isn't anywhere there. But you can see that damage that Geo's doing. So I'll go ahead and talk about some different people you could bring in. You could bring in Elva in place of Syl. You could bring in Rector in place of Shimel. For Royal Guard and Husk, I mean, there isn't any, like, people I would consider direct fill-ins, except, I mean, unless you have a Krizia, or, I mean, Mishinaki could go in, Ninja could go in, but these guys are good all the way through, and that's what I'm trying to point out. This team could work all the way through, except maybe Syl. You probably want to take Syl out as you got higher up, but we want to go ahead and, oh goodness, here we go, the million counterattacks. We want to go ahead and take care of this head as soon as we can. Ugo is actually somebody who you're probably never really going to replace unless you want to use Uko, which Uko's great. He does buff strip and the block debuffs, but just saying that Ugo is somebody you could use the entire time you're on your account. And then you see these big hits from him. We're gonna go ahead and get this revive. Gonna get the revive from Syl. Also, Ugo can revive, but it's not consistent. That's the main issue there. So one more turn, and then my Ugo can go ahead and heal everybody. Just more damage on these two heads is where we want to keep putting our damage. Our debuff thing is getting filled. I didn't bring a block debuffs champion. I was just trying to keep this like as simple as possible. Just trying to use mainly epics and then a free legendary. But hopefully we go ahead and get the head of Torment, because that's why we brought in Shimel. Outside of there, it's kind of useless, just being honest with you guys. Alright, so they're dead. Almost killed this head. Shimel does make these fights a little bit longer than, I mean, we'd really like them to be. He went ahead and stripped, but it doesn't matter, just because there's nothing really nasty coming out. So from here, we get to see our first teammate getting eaten. We'd like to have our Geo with his HP burn up, but again, this is just normal, so it doesn't matter all that much. So as soon as he gets a turn, we're basically just gonna break it out. I think he's right up. Alright, now see, immediately got it out, because this is lower, but at the same time it would do almost the same thing the higher you get up. Also, by the way, you do more damage to decapitated heads. We get to see the extra turns, which is nice. A weak hit, 31k. It's not the best, but it's not bad at all. Sadly, we got the exact same heads as last time. I think that's the one thing about normal, is that you're going to be seeing a lot of repeats when it comes to the heads. Just a lot of repeats, and as you get higher up, you get to see a lot more variety, which either that can be a great thing for your team or it can be a bad thing. You can see the team is starting to really take some hits here. Sadly, your provoke went away, but we didn't. It was timed where we didn't get screwed over completely. You want to get our Husk back. Husk is doing a lot of the work for us. We're gonna go ahead and attack him, try to get him out of here, because we get some shields when we kill. So he got that shield I was talking about from that head. Decay puts out this, and if we break it, then we go ahead and get them stunned. I think we want to kill Decay though, because Decay is, like, in my opinion, one of the more annoying heads. Alright. So we got killed off of the reflect damage. Oh, I should be attacking this one. Some mistakes have been made. And my people aren't all that tanky. But this is just kind of showing you guys, you don't have to have the most insanely tanky teams. You can do it with the squishy team. As you get higher up, you do need more tank. But this is a team that a lot of you guys can probably do that you didn't even realize you could do. I mean, there's some insane stats on a few of these champions. I'm not going to go out and say I don't have insane stats on everybody, because I definitely do. But defensive stats wise, not quite. So this is starting to die out. Sadly, I mean, I didn't think it would quite die out, but you're starting to see. You kind of see what I'm talking about. Different places. Oh, need to break this head out. Okay, I mean, we just die here, but we started doing damage. He went ahead and removed it. You're getting to see the annoying parts, what really screws up runs, because generally this has not been a great run. I think we might not even get the 1 key here, which is purely my fault. My Syl is built pretty awful, and if I would have built her right before this, would have been fine. Yeah. If we can get Geo up, we can start doing some more stuff. Ooh, that's not good. So it's almost dead. We did get the 1 key though, which is all that really matters. But this would, okay, let's go ahead and show a different team. I'm not going to run it all the way through, but I just wanted you guys to kind of see the annoying things that goes on. I can show you my actual team. If we go to Brutal, I can throw in my actual team and I can just run it auto besides the very beginning. So we have Necmo in here. Going ahead, just these are the champions I pointed out as like some of the best. We have Necmo in there. We have Cupidus in here. We have Uko in here. Overall, very solid team. Trying to get the provoke. Same issue we had before, but you can kind of see this is going to be a lot more tanky. Duchess is fast. She's going to full revive team anytime somebody dies. Yeah, so this is kind of like a really better team. I have gotten upwards of 108 million when running this team. Just wanted to show you it. Like I said, not going to run it net gun for the perfect run, but this can do upwards of 108 million in Brutal. I've run it and got about 50 to 60 million in Nightmare. Overall, very solid team. One that I like to, if I can, like to do in other people's accounts, because it is that strong. But yeah, guys, I think that's Hydra for you. If there's any more questions in the comments, I will be happy to go over and make a new video, maybe a part 2 of this. But I'll go ahead and show you some more teams of what people are running. Yeah, this team. Yeah, you'll see a lot of the changes that I pointed out as good. Some that I didn't point out but are very good. Just as you see these teams. Okay, Leo and Baron shouldn't be in here. I should stop looking at Normal. Normal is its own thing. Let's go ahead and look at Brutal. These are good teams. So, Mishinaki, Geomancer, Husk, Molly, Tuhanorak, Duchess, all people I pointed out as amazing. Again, all people I pointed out as amazing. They truly are the best. Ooh, somebody I forgot to point out, guys. Grazer. Ooh. Should probably go read his kit to you guys real quick. He's one of the best for Hydra. I can't believe I forgot to point him out in Grzur. So A1 AoE attack. He puts out a shield, and the shield is proportional to the champion's defense. On a 3-turn cooldown, attacks all enemies, heal this champion by 10% of the damage dealt. Increases the duration of all buffs and all allies by 1 turn. This is enemy max HP 2 on a 3-turn cooldown. It's huge. On a 3-turn cooldown, 100% chance of placing a provoke for 1 turn. Also places a 50% increased resistance buff and 60% increased defense for buff on all allies for 2 turns, and increased resistance and increased defense. And then basically unkillable if he gets down that low, and whenever this champion is attacked, heals all allies except this champion by 70% of the damage received, which is insane. And then also only heals by 35% from boss attacks, and it's no cooldown. It's pretty insane. Another set that I needed to point out, and I completely forgot to, is Marichka. Marichka is in the top 2 best champions in the entire game. Completely broken. 25% speed aura in all battles. On a 3-turn cooldown, whenever this champion dies, revives all dead allies by 50% with 50% HP and 75% turn meter. And whenever an ally receives a poison, HP burn, or bomb, puts block damage on them. This is just crazy. And then a 4-turn cooldown removes all debuffs from all allies, then fills their turn meter by 15%, fills the turn meter of each ally by an extra 5% for each debuff removed from them. Increase this champion's resistance by 5 for each debuff removed. Grants an extra turn if 5 or more debuffs are removed. Jeez, this champion's so broken. On a 3-turn cooldown, fully restores any allies a decreased max HP, then heals all allies by 40% of this champion's max HP. Places a shield buff and a protected strengthen buff on all allies for 2 turns. The value of the shield buff is equal to 20% of this champion's max HP. It's just completely crazy. Attacks 1 champion, 1 random ally will team up and join the attack. The ally adjoining the attack will always use their default skill. If Taras the Fierce is on the team, he'll always be the one to join. And Taras is the next one we're going to, which is again top 3 most broken champs in the game. These 2 right here, and they are the #1 combo in the game. Insane base stats on both of these people. 24% crit rate in all battles. All incoming damage from skills is reduced by 50%. When attacked, this champion's max HP will be decreased by 25% of the attack's initial damage before damage reduction. Let's say we're pairing that with Marichka. It's just completely broken because she heals that. Passive effect: when attacked, decreases the enemy's attack by 10% up to 50%, and it's up to 25% against bosses. Occurs once per skill. Attack reduction resets after each round. Active effect: places a fear debuff on all enemies from orcs, Ogren tribes, undead hordes, and demon spawns at the beginning of each round. This cannot be resisted. That's one of the most broken passives in the game, if you ask me, especially for PvP. Constant pressure: attacks all enemies, damage increase. Well, okay, let me take that back. This can screw him over and go ahead and make him a sheep, but besides that, it's broken. Constant pressure level 1. Well, it's level 1 without the books. Level 4, yeah. A 4-turn cooldown. Attacks all enemies, damage increased by 15% for each buff on allies. Then increase the duration of all ally buffs for 1 turn. It heals this champion by 5% for every buff that had its duration increased. Restores decreased max HP equal to the amount of any surplus heal. On a 3-turn cooldown, attacks 1 enemy, places a stun debuff for 2 turns. Deals double damage to champions whose attack is equal to or higher than this champion's attack. So basically any nuker. Passive effect: whenever an enemy attacks Marichka, the unbreakable, uses this skill, which is completely broken, like completely broken, because he is one of the hardest hitting champions in the entire game, so him using this is crazy. And then his A1 attacks one enemy 2 times, has a 40% chance of placing a decreased attack debuff for 2 turns. Each critical hit fills the turn meter of all allies by 5%. These two are 2 of the most broken champs in the entire game. I don't know how I forgot to mention them in this, but I did at the end, so please forgive me for that. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, comment any questions or anything you have about this, what you think about this. If you guys are new to the channel, please go down and join the Discord. The Discord is filled with absolutely amazing people, and I'm in there too. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. If you want account help, you can purchase it there. I keep getting comments asking where can I get account help. It's in my Discord. You just open a ticket, and then I'll be there as quick as I can to help you. We'll get it done. I'll probably record it, and that's that. Anyways, again, thank you guys so much. I'll see you on the next one. Peace out, guys.